I'm about to turn 30 in April, and I still have no explanation for what happened in my old Chicago apartment when I was around 10 years old. My sister was 7 at the time. Like me, she had a wild imagination. We didn't always get along. We fought a lot over little things. One day, she told me she had a new friend, a girl named Samantha who lived across the street. I didn't believe her. 1. We were always together. 2. Our parents never let us play outside the fenced yard. So how could she have met this Samantha, unless it was a school friend? But she wasn't. For weeks, my sister kept talking about her, how they played together, told jokes, had fun. I'd tease her, calling her a liar, telling her she had no friends. I never believed in imaginary friends. I even told my mom, but she just laughed it off, said my sister was probably messing with me. Then, one night, things got weird. We were playing in our shared bedroom when I asked if Samantha could come play with us. She said, "Samantha can't come over today." I laughed. "That's because Samantha isn't real." She glared at me. "Yes, she is." I smirked. "No, she's not." Then, her whole expression changed. Her face twisted with anger, her eyes darkened. And then, in the coldest voice I'd ever heard, she said, "Samantha says she's going to get you." I ran to my mom crying. She scolded my sister for scaring me. But the way she said it, I can still hear it in my head. After that, the real horror began. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just kept staring at my Toy Story Jessie doll on the windowsill. Then, I watched as its head slowly turned toward me. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I squeezed my eyes shut, rubbed them, blinked hard. When I looked again, the doll was facing forward, exactly as it had been before. Chills ran through my entire body. The next day, I was alone in our room, lying on my stomach watching TV. I used to put my legs under the bed and kick the frame, just dumb kid stuff. Then, I felt it, a cold fingertip. It dragged slowly from my heel, all the way down to my toes. I didn't look back. I jumped up and sprinted to my mom. She checked under the bed and told me to quit playing around. I started crying, begging her. It was Samantha. But she just brushed it off. For about a week, nothing happened. Then one day, my sister and I were playing with Barbies when, out of nowhere, she started laughing. I asked, "What's so funny?" She grinned and said, "Samantha got you, huh?" To this day, she swears she has no memory of any of it. She says she has no idea who Samantha is, but I remember, and I always will. When I was 4, my older brother was 7. We lived in a small house in a shady neighborhood, though I didn't know that at the time. My parents loved us and did everything to make sure we felt safe. My dad worked late, gone by 4 p.m., home around 2 a.m., so most nights it was just my mom watching us. One spring afternoon, my mom had just put training wheels on my bike so I could keep up with my brother. We were riding on the sidewalk, having fun, until I noticed something. A red truck. It was parked on the street ahead, facing us. The windows were tinted, the paint scratched and dull. At first I didn't think much of it, but as my brother and I rode further, the truck moved, slowly, always behind us, always next to us. Then my mom saw it. She yelled for us to come back, running toward us. My mom was scary when she needed to be, strong, fearless. As soon as she grabbed us, the truck sped off, but not before she snapped a picture of the license plate. 2 weeks later, something terrifying happened. We were in our small living room, watching a movie before bed. In the distance, we heard sirens. They blared for nearly 15 minutes. Then, someone was at our back door. The handle rattled, hard. My mom rushed over, holding it shut. The lock was faulty sometimes, so she pressed against it. Then the noises moved to the kitchen window, banging, someone trying to force it open. Then grabbing a rock from our garden, trying to break it. My brother and I ran to our parents' bedroom, the only room with a lock. We hid under the bed, holding our breath in the dark. The sirens grew louder, then shouting, outside, in our backyard. Minutes later, the sirens faded. The intruder was gone. Turns out it was the same man from before, a predator, a trafficker, running from the police, trying to break in and hide. If my mom hadn't been there that day, if she hadn't been the woman she is, I wouldn't be here to write this. More than a decade later, Me and a few friends went to check out an abandoned train tunnel near our school. If you want to look it up, it's called Abandoned Train Tunnel Stockholm Södermalm. We'd been there before, but this time was different. Right outside the entrance, there were makeshift tents, probably built by homeless people living there. That alone creeped us out. What if one of them followed us inside? To get in, you had to crawl under this massive wall. The tunnel itself was over 2 kilometers long, pitch black almost the entire way. And worst of all, there was no way out on the other side. Once you're in, you have to come back the same way. We didn't want to wake up the people outside, so we crawled in as quietly as we could. The tunnel was littered with rusted spray cans and random junk. Every little noise made us jump. And when you're in a place like that, your mind plays tricks on you. We had explored this tunnel a few times before, and every single time, my friend would freak out, swearing he saw someone waving at us from the other end. But it was never real. Just paranoia. At least, that's what we thought. This time, we looked back toward the entrance, the only source of light, and standing there, blocking the way out, was a tall black figure. At first, we told ourselves it was another one of those hallucination tricks, but this time, it felt real. We froze. Our stomachs dropped. Instead of confronting him, we did the worst thing possible. We went deeper into the tunnel. There's a section in the middle where the tunnel curves. Once you pass it, you can't see the entrance anymore. By then, we were practically blind, with only a cheap flashlight one of my friends had brought. Finally, we reached the end of the tunnel. It was time to head back. That's when we made our biggest mistake. We decided to turn off the flashlight. For fun. We thought it'd be funny. It wasn't. When we switched the light back on, the man was standing right in front of us, holding a metal pipe. Our screams echoed through the tunnel. He reeked of piss and booze. He must have been living down there, and we had wandered straight into his turf. We bolted, sprinting through the darkness, stumbling over the wooden planks of the old train tracks. But we couldn't run too fast. We kept tripping, barely able to see where we were going. The worst part? We had no idea how close he was behind us. Then we reached the exit. To get out, we had to crawl through a tiny gap under the wall, head first, which meant we couldn't see behind us. One by one, we scrambled through the gap, heart pounding, praying. Somehow, we made it out. Once outside, we turned back, peering into the tunnel. He was still there, standing in the darkness, watching us. He looked out of it, like he wasn't even fully aware of what just happened. But I know one thing for sure. If we hadn't run when we did, we might not have made it out at all.